Well, over the past decade, I'd say there have been some of the most memorable tech fails to have ever existed in the history of mankind. For example, the Galaxy Note 7, we had the MacBooks, which, kind of removed some of the most important hardware features and then brought them back, and quite a few more. But there have been some which have gone down very silently, where companies have spent billions of dollars to innovate such products and then have in fact spent more to cover up the fact that this particular product had failed. So in this video, we are going to be discussing 5 of the biggest tech failures that have occurred over the past decade. So without wasting any more time, let's get into it. Before we head on to the video, I would really appreciate it if you guys could subscribe to my channel. We are very close to 500 subscribers and I would really appreciate it if you guys would subscribe and we reach that goal as soon as possible. Now let's head back to the video. Why not start with Apple? This is about the Apple Error 53. Way back in 2016, in an era where probably the iPhone 6 or the iPhone 7 were, predominantly one of the most exciting phones of the time, Apple had one small bug in their software, and that caused an error called Error 53. Literally thousands of iPhone users woke up to find that expensive smartphones had suddenly just become little bricks. No warning, no explanation, just a black screen with 2 words, Error 53. And this was not some hardware issue or a software issue. In fact, it was just Apple trying to be sneaky and very petty. If you had your home button replaced by a third-party person, the next time that the person would upgrade their iOS version, they would get this error on the screen. And Apple's initial response? They called it a security feature. Apple claimed that they were trying to protect your fingerprint data from these third-party personnel when they were trying to change your fingerprint button. But of course, that was a lie. Even if the sensor worked perfectly for months, the update would kill the whole phone, not just the Touch ID. It was a PR nightmare. They tried to bury it as a minor technicality. They eventually had to release a patch to unbrick the phones as well, but the message was clear. Apple wanted total control over the right to repair policy for iPhones. And of course, right after we talk about Apple, we have to go to the biggest competitor in the Android market. I'm talking about Samsung. Samsung had one of the most memorable smartphone fails of all times, and I'm talking about the Note 7. And probably they did learn a lot from that particular smartphone fail. Well, mostly, they learned how to be sneaky instead of more explosive, I'd say. In 2022, they were caught in one of the biggest gaslighting campaigns in smartphone history, the GOS scandal. GOS stands for Game Optimizing Service. It sounds helpful, right? But what it actually was a secret list of over 10,000 applications that Samsung software would intentionally slow down. If you were using TikTok or playing a game, the phone would throttle the processor by up to 45% to prevent overheating, because their hardware design couldn't handle the heat. And here is the sort of evil part. If you ran a benchmark app to see how powerful your smartphone was, the software would recognize it and let the processor run at a complete 100%. When users in Korea discovered this, the backlash was so massive that Samsung CEO had to publicly apologize for this particular feature that they had implemented. And it wasn't just a bug. It was a systematic attempt to hide hardware limitations of one of the most powerful smartphones on the planet, just so that, users would think that they are getting more power. Now, we covered Apple and Samsung, but now let's move on to Google. And Google has had a lot of features and applications and softwares and tools that they have developed, which they've all got to remove support from. And this particular one is the hidden data leak. We all know Google Plus failed as a social network. That's no secret at all. But the real fail is why Google finally pulled the plug. It wasn't just low engagement. It was a massive security cover-up. For those of you who don't know, in 2018, Google discovered a bug that exposed the private data of over 500,000 users to third-party developers. And this was a major security breach. According to leaked internal memos, Google's top executives decided not to tell the public about the leak. Why? Because they didn't want the same regulatory heat that Facebook was getting from the Cambridge Analytica scandal at the time. They kept the leak a secret for several months, and I think 7 months to be exact, until the Wall Street Journal was just about to break the news to the public, after which Google announced it, and instead of, trying to get a proper investigation done, they basically killed Google Plus in order to avoid any sort of formal investigation. Now we've covered smartphones and we've covered Google, and we should probably start talking about some of the biggest AI fails. And I'm talking about something from pre-ChatGPT types. Well, way back in 2016, that is 4 years before ChatGPT, Microsoft released their own AI called Microsoft Tay. Microsoft released an AI chatbot on Twitter designed to engage and entertain 18 to 24-year-olds. It was supposed to learn from conversations and become more human over time, until it became a little too human. Microsoft's engineers were so confident in their AI that they just, let it loose. Within 16 hours, the internet did what the internet does. Because Tay was designed to mimic human behavior without any guardrails, it was quickly manipulated by trolls. In less than a day, it went from saying humans are super cool to posting some of the most offensive, hateful, and racist comments ever seen on Twitter. Microsoft had to assassinate this entire AI project that they had developed way back in 2016, which would have probably been way ahead of its time, in less than 24 hours. And this was a public humiliation for Microsoft. Although it would have been cool if this was actually developed well and had some guardrails and some checks to ensure that it never went too offensive, well, I'd say it was a pretty big failure which led to success of OpenAI. So one failure leading to another success. Finally, let's talk about Amazon. Well, Amazon loves to put microphones in our home, especially with their device, the Alexa. But this is not about the Alexa. It is when they try to put microphones on our bodies in order to capture our emotions. The Amazon Halo was a fitness tracker that had no screen, but it had two features that were frankly pretty dystopian. Firstly, it asked you to take nearly naked photos of yourself so its AI could create a 3D model of your body fat. Second, it used a microphone to listen to your voice all day to analyze your tone. It would literally send a notification to your phone saying, "You sounded dismissive to your boss today," or "You sounded condescending to your partner." The failure wasn't technical. The AI actually was pretty accurate most of the time. The issue was read the room, bro. People didn't want this e-commerce company judging their marriage or storing 3D scans of their entire body just so that they could get a few perks and understand what tone they were talking in at a certain point of the day. In 2023, Amazon quietly deleted their entire Halo division, laid off their staff, quietly killed the feature, and told users that all of their data will be completely deleted. It was a billion-dollar lesson that even in the age of data, there is a line that you just do not cross. Well, these were 5 of the biggest fails that we have seen over the past decade. And let me know if you want to see a part 2 of this, as there are quite a few more that have just been hidden from the public. Anyways, that's been it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You guys can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I'll leave links from both those accounts in the video description. Thanks for watching. This is Sexage, and I'll see you guys in the next one.